Good afternoon to you. 306 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up today, Todd Bensman will be with us. We'll talk about the border, the invasion that keeps going on, and also American communities that are now completely overrun by illegal immigrants. Todd's got the details on that at 4 o'clock. 5 o'clock, we speak to a great swimmer by the name of Paula Scanlon, a woman who defended the right of women to be able to swim against other women and not men. She's from the Independent Women's Forum. We'll talk about that crazy gender-bending saga finding its way to Roanoke College. And then Emily Jashinsky will be with us today at 5:30 from The Federalist. We'll talk to her about the intellectual debates going on the right and what they really mean. A lot to get to today. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Big headlines today, raving about the state of the economy. CNBC, payrolls soared by 336,000 in September, defying expectations for a hiring slowdown. So good news, says CNBC and so many of the other outlets. They're saying this is great data. Great data. In fact, here's Joe Biden today taking a very slow-spoken victory lap about what's happening with the economy.
Inflation is coming down at the same time. It's down 60% since last summer. Core inflation was just 2.2% over the past 3 months. And now we have the lowest inflation of any major economy in the world.
So prices are still going up. That's what inflation means. So in other words, you have to pay a lot more with each passing month for everything you buy. But they're going up a little bit more slowly. Aren't you happy about that? Here is more Biden today saying it's something that he said a million times now. He thought you were too dumb to know what a supply chain was because he was too dumb to know what a supply chain was.
Before the pandemic, supply chains was a phrase most people didn't even associate with, didn't think much about. And but today, after a few delays in availability of parts and products everyone has known about, they know why it's so important.
Yeah, now everyone understands why a supply chain is important. Really? Is it? If you are actually a person who learned what a supply chain is because of the pandemic, let me know. I don't believe that for a second. Honestly, I really think that Biden just had no idea what it was, and then he discovered it over the course of the government shutdowns. We cut the deficit, says Biden, yet again, in something that even the Washington Post has billed as a lie.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. We've cut the deficit by over $1 trillion since we've taken office. Laws that I sign will cut it by another $1 trillion over the next 10 years.
That is a lie. That is a lie. That is a lie. Biden did not cut any spending. He just failed to pass yet another COVID giveaway. That's why he's taking credit for $1 trillion in cuts because of the government payments that went out during the shutdowns, government-imposed shutdowns. Biden is also asked today why people don't actually feel that the economy is good. Listen to his patronizing answer.
President, you started your remarks here today by saying it was good news today with the economic report. Why do you think most people still don't feel positive or feel good news about the economy?
Well, first of all, you just heard the news today, too. They haven't heard it. I think the people, those 300+ thousand people who got jobs, feel better about the economy. Look, I got to choose my words here.
For once.
You all are not the happiest people in the world. What you report. And I mean it sincerely. It gets you get more legs when you're reporting something that's negative.
Okay, this is amazing. Isn't this great? You're not carrying my water enough, Biden says to the leftist media.
I don't mean you're picking on me. I'm just the nature of things. You turn on the television, and there's not a whole lot about boy saves dog as he swims in the lake, to say, it's about, somebody pushed the dog in the lake. I mean, I get it, but.
What is he talking about? And where is he?
If you just listen to what's going on around the world.
You feel better now? Does that make you feel a whole lot better? that eggs are prohibitively expensive. Joining us now is Dr. EJ Antoni. He's a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation and the in-house economist for the Vince Coglianese Show. EJ, you feel a lot better now about the economy? It turns out the media hasn't been telling you how good it is.
You know, Vince, I was already not feeling good about the economy, and then you made me listen to all that drivel, just like you did the last time I came on. I mean, you're getting me frustrated right out of the gate here.
I'm sorry for torturing you, but it is amazing for Biden to stand up there and say, look at these numbers. Everything is fantastic. If only you would tell the American people, then they would know that their lives are not as dreary as they think.
Oh, yes. Or maybe if their lives weren't dreary, then they wouldn't need any government apparatchik or bureaucrat to tell them that. I mean, my goodness, maybe the reason why, so many Americans think the economy is doing terrible right now is because so many Americans are doing terribly right now. Has that thought ever crossed the mind of anyone at the White House?
Yeah, it's a total Washington thought to see, to basically a rear-looking piece of data and then say, why don't the American people feel better about this? Because as you know, as you've told me, these economic reports are actually lagging indicators of what's actually already going on in the country, and people truly are miserable. The prices, they're still going up, aren't they, EJ?
Absolutely. And I was so mad earlier, and you just made me mad again when the president brought up supply chains, talking about them as if they're the cause of inflation. Let's do a little thought experiment, okay? There's a recent report. It's been out for several months now by S&P Global, where they look at supply chain problems around the world, and they have determined that things are actually, on the whole, at the exact same level today in terms of supply chain problems or ease as they were before the pandemic. In other words, we're back to normal. Okay, there are no additional costs being imposed because of supply chains on average. Some things are more expensive, some things less. But the point is that if that really had been the cause of inflation, then as soon as those problems went away, prices would have come back down. They haven't. They're still going up.
No question. And in fact, I'm constantly reminded of when Biden straight up declared that the government was responsible for inflation. This was back in November of 2021. I'm going to play it again. I think you and I have played it several times together, but I need people to hear it once again. This is Biden in the Port of Baltimore, 2021.
It can delay shipment of furniture or clothing, reduce worldwide supply, and driving up prices here in America. And the irony is people have more money now because of the first major piece of legislation I passed. You all got checks for $1,400. You got checks for a whole range of things. If you're a mom and you have kids under the age of 7, you're getting $300 a month. And if it's over 7 to 17, you're getting $360 a month, like wealthy people used to do when they get back tax returns. It changed people's lives. But what happens if there's nothing to buy, you got more money, you compete for getting it there, it creates a real problem.
It creates a real problem. So the government just fired all of this money out of cash cannons, EJ Antoni, printed a bunch of money, and then you heard Biden just describe inflation.
Right, and then he proceeded to just go and spend even more money. So he correctly outlined the problem, and then it was rinse and repeat. I mean, my goodness, what is wrong with this man? He clearly does not have control of his mental faculties.
No, he really doesn't. So the media, to the extent that the media is trying to dress this up as a great report today, remember, I read that CNBC headline at the outset. Payroll soared by $336,000 in September, defying expectations for a hiring slowdown. Take us under the hood here, EJ. What do the numbers actually look like?
Well, the Biden economy is so good that not only does everyone have a job, everyone's got 3 of them. I mean, my goodness, literally the entirety of the job gains last month weren't full-time jobs. We lost full-time jobs. All the gains came from part-time jobs. In other words, people either can't find full-time work or they already have full-time work and they're having to go out and get a second or even a third job that's part-time in order to make ends meet. The idea that somehow the American family is thriving today, nothing could be further from the truth.
So full-time jobs went down. When you say that, what that means to me is that people lost their benefits. That includes employer-sponsored health care, and more of them are now on the government system.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of more people being on government, more than a fifth of all the jobs that were added in this last report were government jobs. And the reason why that's so important to consider is the fact that all of those jobs need to be supported by the private sector jobs. And so if you want to look at this on net, you need to take out all of those additional government jobs, because that's not actually adding to the real value of the economy. It's actually a subtraction because someone else has to pay for it.
Yeah, it does tell you a lot if, what were the numbers in September in terms of people who doubled up on jobs?
Oh, goodness. Let me see if I can remember it. The multiple job holders was 123,000 higher than the previous month. That's more than a third, by the way, of all those, the headline number, the jobs gains. And I saw
the number you shared. The number you shared today on your excellent Twitter thread. You said 37% of the job gains went to multiple job holders. These are people who needed multiple jobs just to survive the Biden economy. That's the real message of this jobs report.
Right, exactly. And again, where are the jobs coming from? They're all coming from part-time work. So people, again, are getting a second or a third job because they can't make ends meet. So we keep hearing from the White House how, oh, it's okay because despite all that inflation, now finally wages are rising faster than inflation. No, they're not. We just got a terrible wage data in this report this morning, and I guarantee you when we finally get the inflation data for September, it's going to show that real earnings are down, not up again.
Tell me, let's dig into some more of these numbers. You've got foreign-born workers versus native-born workers. What have the trends showed there?
This is one that's really troubling, too, because if you look at how foreign-born workers and native-born workers were doing before the pandemic, you get very steady trend lines. And both obviously fell off a cliff during COVID. However, the foreign-born workers have recovered pretty quickly and are already back to not only their pre-pandemic level, but pre-pandemic trend. The native-born American workers still haven't returned to that trend at all. And so essentially all of the additional jobs today that we have above and beyond what we had before the pandemic, according to those headline numbers, have gone entirely to foreign-born workers. They're not going to native-born Americans. Yeah.
Okay. Man, this is, I mean, it's disheartening to hear the status of all of this. And then I guess lastly, while we have you, EJ, we've got, you point out today that college graduates are the ones who, it turns out, have all the jobs. And yet Biden is cooking up unilateral, unconstitutional cash giveaways to that group of people?
Absolutely. And, this isn't to say that all college grads are doing great, obviously. If you got a major like gender studies, you're in a mountain of debt with probably no hope of repaying it, but that's your fault. You
that was foreseeable, I think.
Exactly. But if you want to look at the employment level, the unemployment rate, I mean, you name it, by virtually any metric, this is a cohort that is doing far better than anybody else. Their unemployment rate is 2.1%. There are 63 million of them with jobs right now. In fact, not only, again, do they have more jobs than the pre-pandemic level, but they're back at their pre-pandemic trend. They have completely recovered. Their earnings, again, as a cohort, not individually, but as a cohort, their earnings have actually outpaced inflation the last 2.5 years. And so if we want to give any group a bailout, it's certainly not them. We shouldn't be paying off their student loans, courtesy of all the other taxpayers who don't have a college degree.
All right. EJ Antoni, who always digs into the real data. Every time one of these reports come out, you should really be following him on Twitter. He gives a kind of a snap reaction to it that includes a bunch of important charts and data and information, and it's the kind of thing that even I can understand. EJ Antoni, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time as always, sir. Yeah, Biden, what was that analogy he used today? He's like, you should report the boy saving the dog, not the person who pushed the dog into the water. It's like, what are you even talking about? People don't think the economy's bad because the press told them to think that. They think the economy's bad because they're experiencing it. That's what's happening. Willie's in Culpeper, line 2. Willie, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Vince, good afternoon. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, Willie. What's on your mind?
So I just came back from Little John out in the county here in Culpeper County, and I talked to a small farmer, real small farmer.
Yeah.
He can't even afford fertilizer for his crops, and he's raising some pumpkins. He says it was cheaper for me to buy them over at some supermarket and put them out here to sell and to try to raise them out here with everything costing. The fuel, the water, the feed, the fertilizer, everything was a lot more expensive. He's scraping by.
It's cheaper to go to the supermarket, buy pumpkins, and then sell them from your roadside stand instead of growing them yourself?
Yeah, he did grow them, but he said, I'm basically giving them away when I'm selling them here.
That's crazy. That's so wild.
It is.
And it's a sad, too, because, you think of a small farmer, that's exactly the guy who enriches a community and that you want to be supporting, and he's struggling to get by.
Struggling to get by.
All right, Willie, thank you.
Thanks, Joe Biden.
Yeah, thanks, Joe Biden. That's for sure. I know. Do you do this in your family, by the way? Do you look around and anytime anything's much more expensive, like literally everything is, thanks, Joe Biden? Do you say that to your friends and family? We do. In our family, thanks, Joe Biden is it's a term of derision, and it's a reflexive one. It's like everything. Who's that? Sean Farish. He's the guy who does the Trump impersonations. And every time he's standing anywhere, if they don't have something, like at a store or whatever, he films these videos and he does his Trump impression. He'll always say, bare shelves Biden, bare shelves Biden. That's what it is. And it's deeply unfortunate. It really is. Hey, coming up on the program, we've got to get to Hillary Clinton and her promise to pursue the formal re-education of Trump supporters. She said it's time to formally code your brain to make it so that you don't support anybody but Democrats. She's saying the quiet part out very loud in an annoying voice. We'll play that for you, that audio, as she sits down with some lady called Christine to explain what she needs to do to the country. And we'll talk more broadly about the left's, quote, reprogramming efforts. They're not new at all. 329. Hey, good afternoon to you. It is 3:35 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, Todd Bensman joins us from the Center for Immigration Studies at 4 o'clock. We'll talk about the various areas of the country that are now being overtaken by a foreign invasion, that is, illegal aliens pouring into the country. Some towns are just illegal aliens at this point. It's an amazing and unfortunate story. Todd Bensman will have the details. Paula Scanlon joins us at 5 o'clock. She was a collegiate swimmer at the University of Pennsylvania, was forced to compete against Leah Thomas, and who's a dude. And now she's part of the Independent Women's Forum. We'll chat with her about the latest such saga. And then Emily Jashinsky's here at 5:30. We'll talk about what it means to be a conservative and why it's so important we have fighters to get the country back on track. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Well, there she goes again. Hillary Clinton sitting down with CNN's Christine Amanpour this week, and she is still deeply butthurt about the results of the 2016 election and has made it her life's work to destroy her political opponent at all costs. And Donald Trump is definitely the guy who she envisions every night before she goes to sleep, with rage. And she started saying this week that, maybe the answer to my political woes is that I force my political opponents into some sort of formal re-education, formal deprogramming, she says. Here's Hillary Clinton in all of her joyfulness.
Very strong partisans in both parties in the past, and we had very bitter battles over all kinds of things, gun control and climate change and the economy and taxes. But there wasn't this little tail of extremism wagging the dog of the Republican Party as it is today. Mm-hmm. And sadly, so many of those extremists, those MAGA extremists, take their marching orders from Donald Trump, who has no credibility left by any measure. He's only in it for himself. He's now defending himself in civil actions and criminal actions. And when do they break with him? Because at some...
Do you hear what she's saying there? It's like it's not working. We haven't figured out a way to hurt him enough. We've marshaled the resources of the entire federal government to try to destroy this guy. We threw the intelligence community at him, the CIA, the FBI. We've thrown the United States Department of Justice at him. We've thrown various Democrat prosecutors in various states across the country at this guy. And somehow he still has support. Why won't these people stop supporting him? She says. Of course, she doesn't. She's missing the fact that every effort that they undertake to fraudulently remove their political opponent is only a Chinese finger trap for more people to support him in the first place, right? They just keep shoving, and they're like, finally now people will stop supporting him. And all you're doing is solidifying the guy's support. You're making them realize, man, our system is so corrupt. They all hate him? Okay, I'm supporting him. Where do you think this comes from? You know, if they had actually engaged in a policy debate with Donald Trump, who knows where the 2024 race would be right now? If they had treated him just as like a candidate with different ideas. We have a different idea for the future, but they can't do it. They don't respect democracy. They don't respect our republic. They want to take him off the playing field. They want to remove that piece entirely. They don't want voters to have the option. So they throw everything they can at him. And here she is going, I don't know what else it's going to take. What is it going to take? We're going to have to submit people to formal deprogramming.
Sure. He's only in it for himself. He's now defending himself in civil actions and criminal actions. And when do they break with him? You know, because at some point, you know, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members, but something needs to happen. And how?
Isn't this rich? Isn't that rich? The nation's leading conspiracy theorist is now saying that you have broken from reality by not signing on to her insane program. The leading conspiracy theorist. I mean, is there somebody who is more prominent than Hillary Clinton who's a conspiracy theorist, who believes things that are not true, who believes that there are conspiracies designed to hurt her? She's Looney Tunes. She's Looney Tunes. You know, let's just go back in time a little bit to the things that she has claimed. Remember, Hillary Clinton said that the 2016 election, well, of course, that was stolen from her. There's no way people voted against her. There's no way people voted for Trump. How is that even possible?
I think it's also critical to understand that, as I've been telling candidates who have come to see me, you can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
The election was stolen. It was taken from her. It's so unfair. I can't believe they would do that, those unseen forces. Hillary Clinton would go on to later say that Donald Trump knows that he's an illegitimate president, that the election was stolen.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. And I take responsibility for those parts of it that I should. But, Jane, it was like applying for a job and getting 66 million letters of recommendation and losing to a corrupt human tornado. And so I know that he knows that this wasn't on the level. I don't know that we'll ever know everything that happened, but clearly we know a lot and are learning more every day, and history will probably sort it all out.
Yeah, the election was stolen from me. History will sort it out, she says, especially because I know all of the historians. I eat with them. They stop by my house frequently. I know them, so history will sort it out, she says. She told USA Today a couple years ago that she's convinced that Trump colluded with Russia to win.
Just breaking tonight, Clinton told USA Today's Susan Page she is, quote, convinced Trump associates colluded with Russia to help her opponent win.
Yeah, so it was stolen from her, she says. It's like, can you imagine? She says, and it's her political opponents who have harebrained ideas about what's going on in the world. They need to think more like her. Amazing. It's not the first time she's insulted Americans and said that they were irredeemable. Here's Hillary Clinton in one of her more famous moments.
You could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that.
Yeah, she said they're irredeemable. They're not even American. They don't deserve to be a part of our elections. Again, the party of democracy. Yeah, right. Also, here's a little-known cut that you may want to hear. This is Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. I often think about this. Hillary, it's not the first time. So Hillary saying to Christine Amanpour yesterday that she thinks that that people need to be put in re-education, that they formal re-education, formal deprogramming of cult members, as she says it. It's not the first time she said something like this. She also said the same thing about abortion a couple years back. She said that religious beliefs in our country have to change. Literally, your religious beliefs need to change to accommodate Hillary Clinton and abortion. You've got to abandon what she said were your deep-seated cultural codes, your religious beliefs, and your structural biases.
Rights have to exist in practice, not just on paper. Laws have to be backed up with resources and political will. And deep-seated cultural codes, religious beliefs, and structural biases have to be changed.
Is this what the founders envisioned? Is this, that they were like, what's going to happen? The government is going to change people's religion. That's what it's going to do. That's who Hillary Clinton is. She's a bad person, as you know well. But she's been on this course for years. The American people need to be subjected to re-education. It's a cult. If they're not for me, it must be a cult. And we've got to change their brains. We've got to rewire them. And in some sense, the left has had success in doing the very thing that she is pining for, right? What has the left been doing? The left has engaged in a wide-scale operation of reprogramming the American public for years on a number of issues. You ready? You ready for a list? What have they reprogrammed people on? How about this? Gender is fluid. Men can be women. Women can be men. Men can get pregnant. Race is your destiny. If you're black, that dictates what's going to happen to you for the rest of your life. If you're white, same thing. You have privilege. Fetuses are not babies. Abortion is good. It's actually good for you. The state knows what's best for your children. Keeping porn out of school libraries, that's book banning if you keep the porn out of the school libraries. Banning To Kill a Mockingbird, that's not book banning. That's what the left does. Too much speech, that's dangerous. You can't have too much speech. You've got to have a little speech, and it's only the stuff that we allow you to talk about. We can control the weather, of course. You need to abandon your car. You need to abandon your stove. You should abandon your light bulbs. Windmills and solar panels, those are great for the environment. Fracking, nuclear, those are bad for the environment. COVID, that emerged naturally. Masks, they prevent COVID. Shots, prevent COVID. Get a few more. It'll prevent COVID again. Walls don't work. Ukraine is our nation's top priority. Abolish the police. Justice is blind. There is not a two-tier system of justice. The 2000 election was rigged. The 2004 election was rigged. The 2016 election was rigged. The 2020 election was not. Voter IDs are racist. Joe Biden is not a criminal. Donald Trump is a criminal. We can save democracy by removing candidates from the ballot so voters don't have that option. The economy is actually in great shape. The economy is in such bad shape that Biden needs to unilaterally forgive student loans, despite the fact that the courts have told him this is an unconstitutional practice. Joe Biden is competent. The left has been forever doing exactly what Hillary Clinton is now advocating for openly. We need to reprogram American citizens. And the reality is, as you know, that list that I just went through, many Americans have been reprogrammed to accommodate this insanity. My sense is that at some point, the left thought a long time ago that maybe if we do this a little more gradually, it's an easier pill to swallow. But boy, did they accelerate. Did they accelerate, huh? I saw Nikki Neely tweet today from Parents Defending Education that there is a school district in Illinois that claimed that students who were uncomfortable and opted to use a private bathroom in the nurse's office because they didn't want to share a bathroom with a so-called transgender student, they're no longer allowed to do that because they are harassing the transgender students by no longer using the regular bathrooms. What happened? So what did the left tell us like 5 minutes ago? Well, if you don't like it, we'll create an accommodation for you. You can use a single-sex bathroom. You can go find an individual bathroom Go to the nurse's office, and everybody will be fine. That way, a boy can use the girls' room, and everybody will be happy and safe, right? That's what they told you. That was the accommodation they made. We're going to push a boy into the girls' room. You can go somewhere else. There's a solo bathroom somewhere that you can use, young lady. Now what's happening? Well, they're ramming it down her throat, aren't they? They're saying, no, you're harassing him by not using the girls' room. You will use it with him. The left is moving fast and aggressively. And this is exactly what Hillary's talking about. So she wants to call it, we should formalize the reprogramming. How much more formal does it need to get? Every institution in our country is a part of a formalized process to do that very thing. We have months that are dedicated to the left's reprogramming. Entire months with flags and phrases and corporate sponsorships that are just dedicated to this. So what Hillary Clinton's actually advocating for, it's been happening, baby. There's nothing new here. But hearing it out of her mouth, it at least, makes people go, oh, I don't want that. Because it's Hillary Clinton. She's like that. Kevin in Manassas, line 2. Kevin, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Good afternoon, Vince. I have a little bit. Let me educate Mrs. Clinton. The MAGA Republicans and Trump supporters do not support Trump because we are cult members. We support President Trump because his policies work and they did things for people, working Americans, and for this country and make it great again. But on the other hand, the true cult members are the Democrat Party, which vote in lockstep with each other on every issue, no matter if it goes against common sense and science and everything else. And when one or two of their members, like the senator from West Virginia, his name slips my mind, or Kirsten Sinema, step out of line, they give their own people death threats. Yet the Republicans, because we are so open-minded with ideas, we fight amongst each other on who's more conservative and which conservative ideas will work. And then the Democrats criticize us for that. They are nothing but mindless automatons who follow the leader and don't think for themselves.
We saw it this week. We had conservatives decide that they didn't like the Speaker of the House. They used the tools available to them well within the confines of the rules of the House. They removed the guy. And Democrats, what did they do? They voted in lockstep. Not a single vote demonstrating a difference of opinion.
We are so open-minded with ideas. We fight amongst each other on who's more conservative and which conservative ideas will work. And then the Democrats criticize us.
I don't know if he's repeating himself. It could be his radio is feeding back into his phone yet again. But you're totally right. You're totally right, Kevin. Either way, whether you're repeating yourself or not. Let's see here. We've got Cindy calling in from Maryland now. Line 1. Cindy, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Good afternoon, Vince. Nice to speak with you. That rant that you just did, all those things that you said that she has racked up, I think you need to take a clip of that and post it on social media, because it epitomizes everything that Hillary Clinton is confusing minds. She's a disgusting deviant trying to separate and make division in this country, in people's hearts and in people's minds.
Yes. Okay.
They have no critical thinking skills. We can't have a conversation. They're changing words. Up is down is up, left is right, etc., etc. Let me tell you something. Go watch 13 Hours. I watched that movie not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of reminded me what happened there at that embassy, what they did there in Benghazi. Just go watch that movie. Corrupt human tornado. Yeah, you're one to talk, Hillary.
I know.
Take a look in the mirror, because what they're doing to this country right now as we speak is scary.
I know.
Is scary.
You're totally right.
It's
Cindy,
scary.
thank you. Cindy, thank you. I really appreciate it. And you're totally right. One other piece of what she said, too, that stands out, this whole idea that, Trump's only interested in himself. Man, again, you're one to talk. Hillary Clinton, of all people. I mean, everything from the Benghazi response to her entire existence is predicated on her narcissism. That's what it's all about for her. He only cares about himself. She screams. She only cares about herself. It was not just Cindy. We got a couple people who've been requesting that we share the list of all of the things that the left has tried to do to reprogram the United States. I'll tell you, I did post a version of this already on Twitter today, so you can find it on my Twitter account. Just of all the ways that the left is trying to manipulate reality to its political benefit. And I say all, honestly, it's non-exhaustive. I gave you a bunch of examples, but my guess is you could provide more. So feel free in the comments there. But again, you can follow me on Twitter as always. They call it X now, at Vince Coglianese. The last name is fun to spell. Coglianese. Always appreciate the follows. And let's see, coming up on the program on the Vince Coglianese Show, we've got Todd Bensman joining us just minutes away from the Center for Immigration Studies. And we'll chat with him about a bunch of places that have been overwhelmed by foreign invaders, including one Texas town that seems to be entirely dominated by illegal immigrants. That's ahead.